Welcome to In Principle, a program to inform, engage and educate. I'm your host Henry Grossek, and on today's program I'm interviewing sleepologist Sveti Williams. Welcome to In Principle, Sveti.
Thanks for having me here.
What does a sleepologist do?
Sleepologists mean, basically sleep is, as we know, is sleep. But the word ology is a science of a particular subject. So basically in this case it's a science of sleep.
And what led you to become a sleepologist, Sveti?
I remember being a teenager, we moved countries, and since then I lost my sleep. But it's not just I lost my sleep, I never prioritized my sleep. When I was a teenager, I always thought sleep was a waste of time. And over time, obviously, that caught up to me, and I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease. And once I began looking for ways to fix my health, I understood that sleep was a crucial component to get me there. So this is how I started going that way. I became a healthcare practitioner, and I realized that no matter what health concern people had, the first step to fixing their health was to fixing their sleep.
What was it that you fixed in your sleep problems?
I had all kinds of sleep problems, beginning from not being able to fall asleep, waking up during the night, and waking up prematurely, too early in the morning, for example. So I had all kinds of sleep problems, so I had to fix all of them.
What are the causes of sleep deprivation?
Sleep deprivation is caused by, a lot of it is habitual. However, there are cases that it could be biological, psychological, emotional, or, like I mentioned,
How do you
habitual.
know what your causes are?
It's basically understanding whether it is habitual or psychological. Oftentimes, for adults, it could be both. So if we experience an emotions that are negative or traumas in the past, it becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, people tend to live by that habit, and that becomes a norm. However, it's not a norm because it's not healthy to live that way.
And what are the effects of sleep deprivation?
Looking at yourself and understanding whether you are tired during the day, whether you've got very short attention span, whether you become forgetful, or you become frequently ill, so your immune system is quite low, so you tend to catch a lot of illnesses and sicknesses, or you become irritable, your mood swings from one to another. So things like that is good to look out for, to understand whether you are sleep deprived.
Now, the term circadian rhythm is very important in understanding sleep and sleep deprivation. Just tell us a little bit about the importance of the circadian rhythm.
Yes, circadian rhythm is our internal body clock. Basically, it's our master clock that regulates our nightly and daily cycles. So basically, whatever we do is controlled by our circadian rhythm. So it triggers that the release of hormones to get us to do specific things, whether it's we're hungry, we need to eat, whether we need to sleep, whether we need to do specific things during the day. And it also regulates our organs and their function. Basically, it regulates everything and every process in our body.
So when you're sleep deprived, your body clock changes? Is that right?
Yes, that could happen. So when we are sleep deprived, what happens is there happens a lot of disconnection between the processes in the body. For example, the body doesn't know whether you're hungry or you're full. So there's disconnection with the hunger hormones. There's disconnection with the stress and pleasure hormones. There's a lot of disconnections like that in the body. And so the body gets confused whether what is it that you need to be doing for your health. And this is why we become moody. This is why we put weight on. This is why we have health problems, and this is why we lose our memory. And later on in life, we develop illnesses such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's diseases. So there's a lot of diseases and diagnoses that are relating to poor sleep these days. Also, sleep deprivation leads to low immune function. So this is where our cell regeneration doesn't actually happen effectively. So our cells literally die in our body without being rejuvenated during our sleep.
Adults and children, are the consequences different?
Yes, they are fairly different. However, it is more crucial for children to get more sleep just because they go through very sensitive developmental stages throughout their childhood. So up until they become adults. So it's very crucial for children specifically to get that good night's sleep. One of those things they need to get is during our sleep, our body triggers release of human growth hormone, which is very essential for development and growth of children, not just physically but also emotionally and mentally. So when children don't get enough sleep, they literally get behind in their development, and they literally don't have enough resources to grow physically.
It's commonplace to make assumptions about bad behaviour. Is it possible that sleep deprivation could be one of the causes?
When it comes to that, sometimes it is important for parents to understand that it is first step to kind of addressing that behavior is to looking at the sleep, the quality and the quantity of sleep the child gets. So once the parents understand that if child does get enough sleep, if the child has enough quality and quantity of sleep and the behavior continues, this is when you need to look at other factors. However, the first factor that needs to be looked at is the sleep.
It's an interesting time, the digital age, where, and I know I discuss this with many parents, some of the children are very almost addicted to devices, and nighttime comes and they'll sneak their devices and be on them much longer than what the parents are thinking.
Yes.
What's your advice to parents in relation to managing the digital age and children's sleep so they can get the best of both worlds?
Yes, you're right. These days, children are exposed to a lot of stimulation at home, and they want to be a part of it. They want to be a part of all that's going on in the house, including the devices and TV and all that kind of noise around them. So what happens is that disrupts their sleep. So when the child is exposed to that blue light that is produced by the TV and devices, it delays their sleep by corresponding time. For example, if a child is exposed to that device for half an hour, their sleep onset is delayed by half an hour. Imagine if it's done for an hour or two. So child is struggling to actually fall asleep because that is stopping the production of melatonin, which is essential for us, for humans, to go to sleep initially. So when it comes to managing that, for the parents, it's very important to limit that devices after the darkness. Before darkness is okay, but after the darkness it's very crucial to limit that exposure to TV. If you do watch TV, then understand that having that distance away from TV is very crucial. So create that distance. When it comes to the tablets and those phones and things like that, smart devices these days, limit them. Whatever you need to do, limit them. And also there's another function on the devices these days, that it's a night shift. Switching that blue light to the warm light is also can preserve that exposure to blue light and kind of limit it. However, either way, it's very stimulating for a child's brain to be exposed to the devices for a prolonged period of time.
You spoke about medication before. To what extent does medication treat the symptom as distinct from the cause?
So when it comes to actually treating insomnia, most often people go to an expert and they get medication. When it comes to fixing your sleep, it could get a bit complicated just depending on the root cause. However, when people do take sleep medication, they develop this cycle of dependency on the dose. So once you're given a dose, it works for a few days, for a few weeks. However, over time, we develop the dependence on that specific dose. And so what happens is medication doesn't work anymore. So people tend to up their dose. And then we develop a dependence to that dose. So we get into that cycle of upping the dose, losing the sleep. Upping the dose and being dependent on the medication. The side effects are very dramatic. When the medication is prescribed, very often the side effects are not mentioned, and people don't understand that they're now developing new side effects, new symptoms of that medication.
So is it a temporary fix?
It's a very temporary fix, and it's not just a fix. It's it's literally just a band-aid situation.
Look, we live in a fast-paced world. Everybody's busy, running around. There's a lot of pressure on everybody. There's a lot of distractions. In a general way, what advice would you give to people in terms of getting balance between sleep and a healthy lifestyle?
Yes, good question. I find that a lot of sleep issues caused by the habitual situations at home. So basically, to be able to fall asleep at night and stay asleep all night and get that good quality and quantity of sleep, it is important to establish that pre-sleep routine. When I talk about pre-sleep routine, basically it's anything from the time you get home. This is the time when you need to begin that routine. You don't have to have specific things that you do religiously. However, do you understand that during the evening time is just the time when your brain needs to begin to winding down and switching off and getting ready for that relaxation? We need to be in an alpha brain wave state for us to be able to transition into from being awake to being asleep. So whatever you do during the evening, it needs to be relaxing. Whether it is taking a bath, whether it is taking a warm shower, whether it's listening to the music, whether it's playing with your pet, or having those things that work for you to be able to relax you. And also it is important to leave things that are very stimulating or very stressful for the next day. In the morning, there is always time in the morning to deal with those things. But in the evening, you need to have this as a rule. Leave those things that stimulate or stress you for the next day.
Do you have a breakthrough story, one that had a positive impact on someone?
Yes, I do have a lot of stories. So one story that I would like to share with you today is one of my patients, my clients, she came to me to fix her sleep, and she's in her 50s, and she says, "Look, I lost my sleep." She says, "I've been always a bad sleeper, and since I was a kid." And to me, that sounds a little bit odd, because naturally children are good sleepers. When I say that, when it comes to an adult saying, "I haven't been able to sleep since the childhood," so this is a warning for me to ask those questions. And as it turned out, she said she remembers during her childhood, she used to run to her bed because of the conflict in the house, and she used to lay there thinking she was safe. She thought it was her safe place. However, as it turned out, it wasn't her safe place. She was lying in bed waiting to be safe, waiting for somebody to find her to make her feel safe. And as it turned out later, we also found out that it was her entire life pattern. For her entire life, in different situations, she was waiting for somebody to come and make her feel safe, because she never felt safe. So what we've done with her, we recreated that association, and now her bed is her safety, and how that fixed her sleep.
So, are you sleep deprived? What do you think?